All right. So, for the time being, last room in this dungeon. And then we need to actually start like modeling some like enemies and programming stuff again. For all that. For now, though, most of today is probably going to be just blocking out the boss fight arena for the boss fight on this dungeon. And if we have some time left over, we might just go back to reworking some of the tutorial, which I've been doing today before the stream started. You can see it all the way down there. I significantly compacted the tutorial. Um, this is the entire tutorial area now, so it's a lot smaller. It's a lot more linear. And there are some actual tutorials in there now, kind of. The screens that tell you what's going on within the game don't really matter anymore. Oh no, we're already dropping frames, are we? We seem to be back on now. The question is for how long? I don't know. The internet like dropouts have been worse lately, and I have to assume that's because um, like work schedule changed for some of the people like living here or some bullshit like that. And now they're like cannibalizing my internet connection more during the times when I'm trying to stream. I have been thinking that I should maybe try streaming at an earlier time. The issue with that is that I also like have a job, right? So it's kind of difficult to consistently be able to stream at like normal work hours for me right now. Because after I'm done streaming, I definitely like don't have the time to like go back to do some work or the energy for that matter mostly. So if I'm going to be streaming like during work hours, I'm effectively like just missing some work hours twice a week, which is not great. But it might be the only way to like get stable internet. Well, we seem to be stable right now. We'll see how it keeps up. Maybe it was just one dip, but I sincerely doubt that's only going to be one dip. So let's just immediately get started before anything else goes wrong. We want to go into the boss room for 211. And then I still don't know what I want to do exactly with this area. Um, is the issue, right? Because it's supposed to be the place that you fight the like leader of this like religious movement almost. And I've already decided he's going to be like kind of like a mole person because the entire like religion is centered around digging and digging and digging. That's why we have this entire like fucking everything around here, right? This entire platforming level is one giant ass mine shaft going up. It'll be decorated with like pickaxes and drills and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be the theme for the character design for the boss fight here as well. So do I just make it like another like church looking area? Is that what we're going to go with? Because I kind of feel like that's what we're going to go with. But again, I don't really have a lot to go off of. So this might be a very, very short block out. I feel like a very tall room makes sense though. So let's get started with that. A tall and narrow room is kind of what I'm feeling like. We should do well, maybe a little like deeper even than we have right now, something like this. I don't think we necessarily need a lot of room for this one fight. Also have to keep in mind that this door is, I think, twice the usual size, yeah. We have a checkpoint in there, so we can make a save in there in a moment. Let's just start with a rectangular room. What I'm thinking, sort of like art asset go, is that we have like a little altar at the back there, which can also be his like return to like a default position. Like after it does certain moves, maybe he returns to like this altar position. Right, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? And then I would preferably like have some stained glass here, and then maybe have some. I think we need this to be wider, but okay, we'll figure that out in a moment. Have some like pillars. I don't know why there would be pillars, but that makes it feel a bit more imposing. And might also be a good place to like hide behind for certain attacks. So yeah, let's actually make these pillars a little bit bigger. I like that idea. Yeah. Would prefer them to be somewhat symmetrical though. So I guess that's literally what these squares are for, aren't they? Let's do 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Fantastic. So we copy that over, and I'm going to just place these down every 1,000 units. Ooh, 1,000 still isn't that much. 2,000. That seems pretty good. I think the entire thing just needs to be wider. But aside from that, I think that this is a pretty good place to start. So let's just go 500 units. Just go 1,000 units on both sides. Just to see what that's like. I think that's actually looks straight up pretty good. I guess we might as well just get rid of the ceiling until we've actually figured out the width of the entire thing. Yeah, that gives you a little bit of room to do some maybe like actual fighting over in these two areas. And that kind of divides the room up into thirds, right? I don't know if it's exactly into thirds, but it kind of looks like it might be. Let's look at this from the top perspective. Evelyn, fuck even are we? Or what? Oh, there we are. So it's about 1/3 each way, I would say. I can actually check that out with 2,000. Well, it's a little bit more in between here, but that's fine. I'm just gonna put in the Reaper. Well, let's put in the Night Boss actually, because the Reaper boss needs some other stuff going for it. The Night Boss can be a pretty decent stand-in. I think he's called like Test Knight or something because he was supposed to just be a test, and maybe in the end he will have just been a test because I do need to like do a lot of extra work on him still to fix up things. But for now, Test Knight. And we're going to make this dude a little bit larger, like 2.5 times this size or something. So that's about the size of the boss fight, right? The size of the room kind of feels pretty good. Now I only need to know whether or not the size of the player kind of fits everything. Is everything too small, too big, anything in between? We'll figure that out right now, I guess. I don't know where. Yeah, do we have ladders? We have at least one ladder. So that's... Also, still don't have a climbing animation. I will work on it, okay? There's going to be an issue with the climbing animation due to the size of my dude's head. And the last ladder hasn't. That's fine. So let's ignore that. Let's ignore that. I don't want to think about that too much. So we have to do some actual platforming here. Here's what I'm getting at. No, we don't. Actually, we don't. Because we don't need to go all the way up. We need to go through that fucking door. So it's not that bad. There we go. Okay, let's make a save file here. Also, I changed the background for my inventory slots. I think this is kind of neat. What's actually super neat is that when it's a usable item now, so an item that I can equip in one of these slots, the border becomes blue. And when it's a non-usable item, the border stays white. I think it becomes even a brighter white when there's something inside of it. And this dull grey is just for empty slots. Something along those lines. So, let's go check out the room. I'm gonna move over the checkpoint closer to the door, I think. Oh, that's... okay. I don't know why I can't see the thing, but as far as the size goes, I think that is actually like straight up pretty good. So that makes me think that this is, for now, maybe all that we need for the blockout. Yeah, I didn't really think this through. I'm going to like start you as active just so that I can actually see the size difference between me and the boss, because the boss should be a fair bit more like massive than the player. That might be a bit on the big side, to be honest with you. Maybe it should be a little smaller, but not much, but maybe a little. So what we could do is we could start just messing around with like opening Blender and making the start of the actual like character for the boss fight. The issue with that would be that I don't have any like concepts for him that I can like, model off of, which is going to be a little annoying. Just go like twice the size. So I don't think that that's necessarily going to be a great idea to do right now, because I need to like generate concept art in quotations, because mostly it is AI generated. But I need to generate like 100 some images and then pick out the ones that I like most and like put them on a mood board and all that kind of stuff, so that I can have some type of reference as I'm actually modeling the dude. So that seems like we're just going to be sitting here for like half an hour, generating images and then like just kind of like looking through them. Doesn't seem like very like good stuff to do on stream. I guess what we can do, just because we can make this like 2500. just for the idea of there being like something that's kind of almost like stained glass. And then we make this like a different color. Just as a guide for me when I actually get to the art creation process for this dude. Or for this level, rather. It doesn't really matter. It just makes it look a little nicer. Like, slightly. Ever so slightly nicer. Yeah, I guess we just leave that there for now. We effectively have our boss arena, I think. We'll need to make an actual boss and see how the boss fight like feels within this area, because if it ends up getting stuck on those pillars, maybe we get rid of the pillars altogether. Before I forget though, I do want to have a nav mesh bounds volume in here. It's going to be relatively important. And then we also need to start like mapping out or writing out a approximate like move set for the boss fight. I have some things in mind, but nothing like nothing very final yet. This will do for now. So yeah, with all that, we have our blockout here. So very good. Let me go over to my task list and mark that as being completed real quick. So we have red dungeon, boss room, blockouts. You know what that means, though? You know what that means? That means the blockout for the second dungeon is done. We didn't really do much for it today. But still, it's been a couple of weeks of work on stream doing this. So we can be happy with that. We can be proud of that. Now, that means I guess we just go back to the tutorial, right? That's what I've been doing today. In between like doing some work stuff, is revising the tutorial area. I added the devlog about this yesterday for the most part. I do need to add in a couple last little thingamajigs. For that devlog, like I haven't done the music yet and that kind of stuff, and I need some more footage. But that devlog is mostly done. Should have been up last Monday. I've had a busy weekend, a couple of busy weekends actually. So it'll be up next Monday instead, and that'll talk about a lot of the playtesting, and a part of that is the revised tutorial. I guess we can just kind of play through it to show you what it is like right now, but not before I go to turn on a light in my room, because it's fucking dark in here. That's a lot better. There we go. I can actually see things now. So yeah, it's pretty rough, pretty like in your face, pretty not subtle, the way that the tutorial stuff works now. So I might have overcorrected. That's the first and foremost thing. I might have overcorrected as far as like tutorialization goes, because there's supposed to be a wall there that only unlocks when you have all three things. But we start off now with having the 3 keyholes for the keys that you're supposed to gather to unlock the boss door right in the first room. So right when you spawn in, you can see what you're working toward for this tutorial area, instead of it being at the very end when you have likely already collected at least 2 out of the 3 of the keys. I think this sets up at least like your goal for this first little bit of the game a lot better, because I don't think that this needs a tutorial, right? I still want to be as held back with the tutorials as I possibly can, because I hate over tutorialization. And I think like anything that can be implicitly told is probably better. And this is one of those things, right? You've got like this area with 3 keyholes that are going to be shining red. I would hope that that tells you that, hey, I need to go collect 3 keys. And something will happen here. And then the only other door that is accessible is that one, because even with your dash, if you are aware that you have it, which I actually need to make a tutorial on, probably. I don't know if I need a tutorial on a dash. Maybe it's good to tell people that it uses your mana, but I feel like that's one of those things where I'm like, we'll figure it out, right? Dash is literally one of the prompts on screen, so, and they're laid out like your face buttons. I feel like people can figure it out. So the only thing that you can do is go through this door. At which point you go into what I call tutorial hell, guy. Hallway, whatever, something like that. And this is just a hallway of some quick little tutorial pop-ups. So we have this tutorial pop-up here. As you explore, you defeat enemies and you'll find items and chests to loot. There's items with 2 variants, resources or usable items. Resources aren't useful on their own, but they can be used to craft usable items. For any reasons that you don't want to hang on to, you can sell them for a little extra energy. That's what I'm going to be calling the souls energy, because I don't want to imply too much like souls-likeness, because while there's definitely souls-like elements, I don't really consider the game a souls-like proper. You will recognize the items in your inventory by having a white border. Usable items, the image is supposed to update here to a blue border, but I don't have that image yet. On the other hand, range from consumables like potions to spells or abilities. You can equip these in your action slots at checkpoints. You will organize these items in your inventory. Recognize them with a blue border. So that's the way the tutorials work. They just pop up on your screen, and that's kind of everything there is to it. And then here you can figure this out, and then I don't have DS4 windows open at the moment, so I can't actually use my controller to open this chest. Let's actually fix that real quick. There we go. So you can pick up these items. I have a instant swap now as well, so they can be instantly moved to the player's inventory. All that kind of good stuff. And then we get a checkpoint tutorial. Again, this is fairly in your face, right? It's very... Here you have some information, but playtests have shown me that people will not implicitly pick up on information that I was hoping they would. So I'm trying to not overcorrect and go too far, but people legitimately took longer than I would have expected to figure out that if you pause on the checkpoint, your pause menu is different. Even though it even changes your stop action button here, your examine button, into save. I guess people, when they don't feel like they need to save, don't explore that option, and as such miss the entire level up and inventory management and crafting and shopping UI, which are only accessible from checkpoints, right? So you just need to tell them, because clearly people aren't figuring this out on their own. And at that point, I might as well also tell them that, hey, this does behave like a Souls-like as far as enemies go. And then checkpoints are also a great place to do all that stuff at. So you literally will not be able to keep going unless you step onto that checkpoint. And that has to do with, again, there's going to be a devlog about this, but that has to do mostly with the fact that if you die before having gotten to a checkpoint, that crashes the game. And I don't feel like fixing that. So what I do is I just force you into touching a checkpoint before you ever see any enemies. That fixes the issue. There you go. And anytime you load a game, you load into a checkpoint. So you immediately have a last checkpoint that you touched, the one that you loaded into. It's only at the beginning of the game, between encountering the first enemy and getting to the first checkpoint, in the current build of the game, that you can crash by dying. That's fixed this way. I just force you to enter the checkpoint, at which point you'll also see if you press the interact button or the pause button, you can open up this menu, and then you can like, well, not do that because obviously that doesn't work. You can go into crafting, for instance, and we can craft the healing spell. I still give you, oh, this should have a cost of magic essence as well. The idea here is that you have the choice between crafting a healing spell or the basic fireball spell. Because I want people to like choose between those. But now that we have that, you can see that this is now a blue border because it's a usable item, so I can put it into the action slots there. And then if you had any souls at this point, energy, you would be able to like spend them on any of these upgrades over here. It's the basic ID. And now that we've done that, this is gone. So we can actually walk through to the next room. And now we've touched something, so if we actually die, we will respawn there. We also will have like a quick little tutorial about the defense bar. Once it's depleted, it will restore after some time to a revenge attack. I don't have anything about locking on yet, because I think it's probably good to space it out into another screen so that you don't get like information overloaded. You will have a little bit of that going on here. There's only one enemy. I think for the combat tutorial, what I'm going to do is I do this, and instead of immediately being able to go into here, I have a separate area where you fight like 3 enemies at the same time, and that's where the lock-on tutorial comes in. Because there I can say, hey, just like use your trigger and lock on, and then the D-pad lets you switch between your lock-on targets. But for now, this just immediately leads into the tutorial to do with like these spawners. So these dark orbs will spawn waves of enemies, defeat them all to get a valuable prize. That's pretty much all there is to it. This does not seem to be functioning at the moment. Need to look into that, don't I? I don't know why that doesn't work, to be 100% honest with you, but that is interesting. That then gets into the places I haven't blocked out again yet. So we still have like this puzzle, except that it has fucked up rotation because I rotated the entire level. Doesn't matter, we're going to get rid of it anyway. Which leads into the platforming area. Oh god, I can hear somebody coming home. I think that means that my internet is about to die. Somebody's coming home, that means somebody's going to be fucking watching Netflix and ruining my night. That's actually pretty good placement. Oh, that's it. I didn't plan. So yeah, you pick up all the 3 keys, and then you go through this door, and you end up back here, ideally with all 3 keys, so you can then immediately go into the boss fight. So that's the basic new structure of the entire tutorial area. And I got about halfway through before I had to go like have dinner and that kind of stuff today. So since we did the boss area for the red dungeon so quickly, because I legitimately don't know what else I couldn't do there. There's not that much to do there, I would say. I think we just like keep going here. So what we'll end up doing, I think, is the idea of having this area extend even a little bit more. Is probably nice. What we'll do instead, I think, yeah, this makes it a little bit more sense. Maybe we'll make it another corner, because that way we don't go like too far into that direction. I still wanted to make like some sort of spatial sense that you go through all this and then end up back here. Because I care way too much about things like spatially adding up, because I do think that that does increase the amount of ease that you have navigating an area. If it is actually physically spatially accurate, I think you get lost less than if you do weird stuff. That's my idea anyway. I don't know. There's probably people who have actually tested stuff about that and know way more about that than I do, but that's my philosophy at any rate. Let's move this entire level over, which is a thing that you can do, apparently. Well, I knew that's a thing that you can do, but it's something I always forget that you can do. And it's also got some weird stuff going with it when you do it. But we can take this whole spawner tutorial area, and we can just say, hey, add it in viewport, and then we move it to right. We'll see if it stabilizes. If it doesn't, I guess today was a 30-minute stream. Look, the moment it reconnects, is like 50% frames dropping. I'm streaming at bit rates that, even if I was just doing audio, if it was just like fucking Spotify, it wouldn't be acceptable. Because it's between 0 and 100k PPS. I mean, we're back at 6k now, but the question is for how long? We've also dropped effectively everybody that was watching. Which is another one of those things where even if like 2 people stay around, the fact that my internet is dropping is probably like actively hurting like channel metrics because people are leaving. So I don't know, like at that point, if it is like there's one question if it's worth for like doing the live streams at all. Like, does it do anything positive if it's cutting out every so often? That's one question. But I'm fairly certain that this is like actively hurting because having like no streams is probably better than having streams that people bounce away from because I'm cutting out. Like from a purely algorithmic point of view. I don't know that for sure. But if I had to take a guess, I would be fairly confident in saying that this, in fact, is bad for the channel's health. So we're going to stick with it as much as we can until we drop again. And I'll see what I do. If it drops again and it doesn't pick back up, I guess I just have to like call it there. Hopefully it doesn't happen. Next week, we're going to try to get my schedule such that I'm streaming like 3 hours early. Just so anybody who is still here, who cares, next week, show up 3 hours earlier because that's when I will be streaming instead. Because at that point, presumably nobody else will be stealing my bandwidth because they will not be home. So hopefully that helps. Who fucking knows now?